Gotcha. Alrighty. Let's get it started.
With the boom and the shakalaka?
What I was also going to say, in here.
I was writing a bit about that the other day. I'm like, people complain we're not progressive enough. I was like, do you realize that 15 years ago, the Black Eyed Peas had a #1 hit called Let's Get Retarded? That's where we came from in 15 years.
Is that the actual name of the song?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. That's the actual name of the song. And they put it out like that. And then there was a little bit of backlash. So they said, oh, we'll change the lyrics and make it Let's Get It Started. But if you bought the album, it's Let's Get Retarded. And not only that, but there's a line in it where the guy, if you listen to the song as it is today, he goes, bob your head like me, Abudi, or whatever. But the original verse, again, if you bought the album, is bob your head like you've got epilepsy.
Holy shit.
Bob your head like epilepsy and we'll get retarded.
Wow. Jesus. Yeah, I see why they changed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyways, so I won't go back to that song. I'll go back to Boom Shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Did the song play for you?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
It just froze on my end the whole time. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
And if anybody's wondering, yes, the original version is still on YouTube. Just put in "Let's Get It Started" original version, or put "Let's Get Retarded" Black Eyed Peas. It will come up, and it is quite shocking.
That epilepsy line is pretty deep.
Whew. It's like my dad's wife has epilepsy, man. Come on.
Yeah, I'm telling you. That's terrible. Well, welcome back to the second episode of the Worst of the Worst Ones podcast, the extension of the Worst Ones podcast, while it is in limbo and possibly never to return. We shall find out next week. But for now, you have myself, Rudy Wilson, and of course, Terry Weezy in the building. Terry, what's popping, man? What you got going on?
First of all, I prefer T Wayne.
Okay.
Yeah.
T Wayne.
Yeah.
What's popping?
What is popping? Nothing, man. Nothing's popping. I just had a birthday on Friday. That's right. You what, 41? Well, I'm 42, so nobody cares. That's the main thing, is that when you turn 42,
right,
nobody cares. It's not if once you get past 30, any birthday that doesn't end in a 0, nobody cares about. So just so you know.
Except for 21, yeah, that's about the only one even less than 30 or whatever.
Well, 25, you can say, oh, now I can run a car. You know?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You know.
That's true. Yeah. Well, what'd you do for your birthday?
Again, because nobody cared. Really nothing. Me and the wife and a couple of friends went out to dinner. My birthday's on St. Patrick's Day, so there's never a shortage of a party. You know. Like, imagine your birthday's on St. Patrick's Day and you're turning 21. Imagine what that scenario is like.
Yeah.
That was an epic night. And I didn't pay for anything. And I didn't even know anybody.
Right.
But just the fact that I was like the unofficial king of that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, there's never a shortage of. So we just went downtown here, downtown West Palm, Clematis. That's where everybody goes. They have close off the streets, make a big St. Patrick's Day block party. So we went down, we had dinner, had a couple drinks, listened to the Irish band, just hung out for a little while, and then it's back home and birthday sex and,
Get in your birthday suit.
in bed by 12:30. We're good. It's a typical 42-year-old birthday.
Gotcha. I ain't mad at that. I ain't
No,
mad
I ain't
at that.
mad at it either. No. I love being in my 40s now. I love being able to just calm down. Like it's so much nicer. Like when I go out now, I still have friends in their 20s through comedy and things, but it's not as fun. It's honestly not as fun to go out with them as it is to go out with like Gio and some of my friends in their 40s or the late 30s. Because we all get it, man. We show up early. We do happy hour for half price drinks.
Absolutely.
And we get the half price apps and we do it up right. And then we sit and we watch the old white men get drunk at the bar and laugh at them. And then, boom.
Absolutely.
You're home by 10. You can still get laid. You're in bed by midnight. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't see why more young people, why if you're in your 20s, it's not a good night if you're not out till 4 a.m. I don't get it.
Hey, I don't either, but I'm definitely not in that stage of my life anymore because I'm 33 and I'm with y'all, the 40-year-olds. Like I remember somebody invited me to their birthday party and it was at a club, so I knew it was gonna be later than me being able to get home by 10. But I was planning on at least being home by 1, right?
Right.
This man told me he ain't getting there until 1. I said, "Oh, sir, I won't be. I won't be.
For
attending.
why?
I won't be. I won't be attending. I can't. I wake up at 5, 6 in the morning. I can't be just showing up to the club at 1 a.m. Yeah, that's not my life. No.
Well, what's even the point? Most places you're gonna go are going to have what they call blue laws, which means you can only serve alcohol up to a certain point. Sometimes most places it's midnight, other places it's 2, other places it's 4. Sometimes it's a mixture. Like they can't, like the liquor stores will close at midnight, but the bars will stay open till 2. And then sometimes there's what they call a 2 a.m. club or a 4 a.m. club. But if you're just getting there at 1, you just cut down your night to 3 hours,
I think that's all they want. Like some people, they just be wanting like just the last hour of the club, or some people only show up to the let out. They wait until 3, 4 a.m. just to show up to be in the parking lot.
Why? All the good ladies are gone. What? You picking up the scraps, man?
Hey man, apparently the scraps is what they want because they didn't want to pay to get in. So you can't.
Oh, that's what it is. It's the money.
Well, I guess. I mean, you ain't pay to get in, so obviously you get what you pay for. You can't get the baddest chick that was in the club. She probably already taken at this point.
Oh no, she was gone at midnight.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, so if you get there and hang out for free, you got to get, the parking lot.
Well, you show up at 1, she's already at Denny's. With the man she chose.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I guess somebody got to live that life, I guess.
I guess.
But that's what's up, man. Well, happy birthday again. I think I told you on your birthday. Yeah, that's right. I told you on your birthday.
You did. You guys Instagram me. It was very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, happy birthday again. It's always good to, I guess go around the sun? I don't know. Whatever.
Around the sun.
Yeah,
one more time around the sun.
I was about to say around the earth, around the globe.
No, that's one day.
Right.
That's one day. I'm going to send you a book on astrology.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or no, astronomy. Astrology's the bullshit one.
That's okay. Symbols. All right, that's what's up, man. Well, I guess about my weekend, I went to a wedding. One of my line brothers got married. That was lit. We had a great time. What else did I do? I had a comedy show in Miami because the wedding was in Fort Lauderdale. I had a comedy show in Miami at Villain on Friday night. And I was lucky enough to actually be able to catch Jay because I didn't know Jay was on the show before me. He was headlining the show before me, Jay McCord. And that's my guy, if anybody don't know. So I went early and watched his set, and then I was on the 10 o'clock show. And then all day Saturday I was doing all the wedding stuff. And I was one of the groomsmen. So
what, you were doing wedding stuff or you were just doing the wedding? It was on
Well,
Saturday.
the wedding didn't start till like 5, so like all day. I was with just say the wedding party, whether we were taking pictures, whether we were
Yeah.
whatever. So it was just
Well,
wedding.
thank God for that. At least I hate when they make like weddings and funerals and bar mitzvahs. Yeah, like why you gotta make it at like 9, 10 in the morning? Like, come on, man. Why are you
Right,
doing this to? Why are you doing this to people?
right,
You
right,
know,
right.
it's already hard enough to get yourself together, give up your free time, come to your thing. Like, at least make it comfortable. You know,
At
let
least.
let me sleep till 10 and get rested and have a nice breakfast and whatnot,
Right,
and then
right.
do whatever I got to do, and then come to your thing later in the day. So I like the 5 o'clock start. That's nice.
Right. Well, I would probably still take an early funeral. I don't want a 5 o'clock funeral. I don't want a nighttime funeral. That's a little.
Well, I
Too.
wouldn't say
Yeah,
funeral, maybe not, but
But yeah, but
1 o'clock funeral,
1 o'clock. Yeah,
funeral
1
seems.
o'clock works.
I
1
went to a
o'clock works.
funeral
Yeah,
recently, and
1 o'clock works.
it was at 11, but it was like an hour away. So
Right.
for me, it was like might as well have been a 10.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, it was. Yeah. 1 o'clock is not bad, but yeah, I wouldn't. But starting at 5 for a funeral for me would be too much. But yeah, but the wedding was definitely lit. They had man, shout out to anybody who has good food at their wedding reception, because that is a thing. I've definitely been to some that has had shitty food, but shout out to both of my line brothers, because at both of their wedding, Byron and Billy, both of their food was fire. And whoever cooked the oxtails at this wedding had to be from the Caribbean, because it was way too authentic. The tenderness, the flavor, the everything, like it was. And you're talking about cooking for a whole wedding. So like when you cook in mass like that, a lot of times you can kind of lose a little quality, if you will.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, now you're in my world now with the cooking.
Right. But
I've had to cook for big groups and do catering and stuff like that when I had my restaurant, and you're absolutely right. It's very difficult to cook for 100 people and still make it good.
Right.
So yeah, I would say, but I think that has more to do with choices than anything. Mm-hmm. Like, so I recently got married, a couple months ago, and we eloped, so we didn't have like a wedding reception typical thing. But if I was to have one today, with knowing what I know, I would absolutely insist on like barbecue and soul food, like Southern style food, because that kind of stuff you can make in bulk and it can still be really good.
Right.
And it's good for hours. You know what I mean? Collard greens can sit on a warming rack, like a warming tray. Right. For hours and still be just as good at the end as it was,
if not better, because it's so good.
Right. But if you're trying to do like grilled chicken or braised ribs or something like that, something really fancy, or pasta bolognese, that's got a time limit, and the bigger you make it, the worse it is. Right. So I am 100% in agreement with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The oxtails
that's a great idea. It's a great idea.
It was phenomenal, but. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it was very, very nice. I did put up like a compilation video of it on my Facebook page, just to show how it was or whatever. And most people don't ever see me in a suit, so that's a thing. And we had a great time though. I from literally the Saturday all the way through to 6 o'clock in the morning when I had to leave Sunday morning to get back to Tampa for church. So yeah, I had fun. Like, because I probably didn't go to sleep till like 2. So
and then you went to church the next day?
I drove, for a lot of the Tampa to church the next day. Oh. Or that same day, technically, because I didn't go to bed at 2, and I slept from 2 to 6, and I got up and I drove.
Man, you might want to like Skype into church for that one. Yeah.
Well, I got responsibilities. I didn't go just to attend. Like I got shit to do there. Like I play drums. I work the camera, do the audio. I do like several different things. So it's like a it's a thing. But one day I will be in a position where I won't have to be there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's the plan. You know what I'm saying? But until then, I gotta get up and make that trip. But I do that. I've been doing that for the longest though. Like that wasn't like my first time having to do that. Like I've done that a gazillion times. Going down there for comedy shows, anything. Like I'd be having to get up early Sunday morning after the shows, Friday, Saturday, and all that, and get up. It's been a thing.
I miss being in my early 30s.
Yeah, man, got to get it. So, but anyways, yeah. But other than that, that was like I said, the comedy show, the wedding, everything was lit. Everything went fine. So, speaking of comedy, today's topic, I know you kind of worded it a little bit differently, Terry, when you brought it up.
You always change my word, and it's fine.
Well, it's not so much. It's not so much changing the wording. I just took out a word to make it more broad. So instead of how does God feel about rough comedy, I just put how does God feel about comedy?
Okay. Well, I meant like I was talking more about like blue comedy is what they call it. You
mean like dark jokes?
Well, not just dark jokes, but dark jokes, cursing, inappropriateness, generally referred to as blue comedy. So, like you take a Jerry Seinfeld, that's clean comedy. You take a Ray Romano, he's got a little bit of a mix when you watch his stand-up. Right. But then you take like a Louis C.K. or like a George Carlin, Richard Pryor. These are all blue comedians. So yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, does God have a sense of humor about that? Or is it all just what the church tells you? No cursing, no this, no that.
Well, I'm gonna answer this two ways, maybe even three ways. But before I go to how I think God feels, I'm gonna refer to myself for 1 second.
Well, yeah, you don't know how God feels. I'm just saying, what do you think? Yeah.
No. But I'm saying, but before I get to what I think He feels, I'm saying I'm going to refer to myself about how I feel about something really quick. Okay. So I sincerely, and I'm not saying this to be controversial or anything. I sincerely do not believe that profanity is a sin. And here's the reason why.
Okay.
Because number one, I can sinfully, wrongfully, spitefully, so on and so forth, like any type of negative, evil way, I can speak against you or without ever using profanity. And what come out of my mouth still be something unpleasing to God without me ever using a profane word like that. I'm gonna mute you for a second because you got a lot of noise going on. I had to mute you for a second. You had a lot of noise going on when you was dropping your headphones. But the like I said, to me, they're just adult words. Like, yeah, I get why people don't want their children using them, but it's adult language. But is it a word that that it's any worse than any other word that you can cut somebody down with? Like, I don't believe so at all. But going to just say my comedy career and my relationship with God, I definitely. I mean, if you watch this podcast, it goes without saying that I definitely use profanity when I'm on stage. But I use profanity, I mean, just in my life. Like, I just, like I don't, it's not an act for me. I don't get on stage and try to start cussing people out or whatever. Like, and I don't use profanity unnecessarily. Like, if I just curse, I'm just cursing. Like, I'm just using that word, but I'm not like, but I also don't use profanity to try to cut people down. I'm not calling people stupid motherfuckers. I'm not calling women bitches. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. So even if I use the word, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not using it to cut people down. So the whole, but going back to my comedy career and my relationship with God, I speak this way. I smoke before I get on stage. All these different types of things. I smoke while I'm on here, but I also pray. I don't ever get on stage without addressing God, like thanking Him for the opportunity to even be on stage, thanking Him for this opportunity to even, you know, do something that I love. Thank you for, you know, just all these things. And then I asked Him to like allow me to, you know, to really be able to have authority over, you know, over this show. Like, let me, you know what I'm saying? Let's do what happened.
Nothing. Wife just asked me something, but no, I completely agree. I think it's I think I've said this many times before, that, you know, I don't think that cursing or curse words are a sin because we made them up, and most of those words and their definitions come long hundreds of years after the Bible was
right.
even completed. So to say that like, oh, this is going to offend God, that's kind of taking your sensibilities and putting them onto Him, which I think is a terrible, terrible thing to do. I think that's one of the biggest sins, is to have the arrogance to say, no, I know what God wants. I know what God means. When it's like, if you don't have a scripture to back this up, you're just talking from you, you know?
Right.
And that's getting puritanical to like a pilgrim level, you know? And then next thing you know, you're burning women at the stake because because it must be a witch because that chicken was too good. You know? That chicken was too good. You're a witch. You know, this chicken from the devil.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where you get lost. But I also agree with you when you say there are things that you can joke about, and there are things you can say that are way harsher and way more hurtful that don't have any curse words in it at all.
Absolutely.
But I can also, because I've had this talk with my father many times too, and I've had this talk with my father many times too, and his position is, he's like, I don't think it's a sin, but I do think it's somewhat like rude and disgraceful. He said, I just think it makes people, like, if I talk to somebody and they drop a few F-bombs in front of me, I just look at you like you kind of don't have any class, you know? And I'm like, I get that situation, but, you know, there's always extensions and circumstances. Like, even my uncle, who's a very devout Southern Baptist guy, you know, like very evangelical, you know, exactly what you think he'd be. But he acknowledges, like, okay, if you're a cop, you know, and you're out there and you're patrolling and you're dealing with, you know, some of the dregs of society, you know, or you're chasing somebody or somebody's trying to hurt you and you're trying to fight them off. You know what I mean? You can't say, excuse me, sir. You can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can't be out there dealing with Pookie on the streets and be like, oh, well, I think you're being a real jerk.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not. So I get that too, but I also kind of get how people, it makes certain people uncomfortable because of, like, what my father said. It's just, you know, that's rude and vulgar. I think it's just vulgar. It's unnecessary. Now, me, I curse on stage all the time, but like you said, it's just because I curse like a sailor in general. You know, the one thing I did think about though was Mythbusters. You ever seen that? You know what I'm talking about, Mythbusters?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
Yeah, it was a show on Discovery Channel where they tested all these myths and urban legends, see if they're true or not. They actually did one on cursing, on whether when you're in pain, whether cursing over just screaming a different, or screaming a different word versus screaming a curse word, can it actually improve? You know, can it actually make you improve your pain, make you feel better? And it came back and it was true. It's true. It like alleviates your pain and frustration by like 20-something% more
I could believe it.
if you yell out a curse word as opposed to if you just yell out to nothing. And they did that. They put their people in like ice baths and
Right.
had them screaming and then had them cursing. I don't know. I always find that kind of stuff interesting. So that's another good point. It's healing. It's healing for you. It's not dropping F-bombs. It's a hospital.
I remember as a child asking my mom, like, why does, because I remember like it was a comedian out. He may still be out, but he was a Christian comedian that I knew about at the time named Broderick Rice, right? And he was, and listen to me, the guy is he killer. Like he ain't nothing corny about him. Like this man is hilarious, right?
Every Christian comic I've ever seen is terrible.
No. He kills, and he also knows how to do impressions and stuff. So he knows he does a lot of impressions of different, black gospel singers, different famous black preachers, TDJ, whatever. So he, what I'm saying, he has all that in his repertoire. The guy was good. But the point I'm making is, I remember watching something else, somebody else who was doing just say regular blue collar comedy, whatever you call it, blue comedy. So I remember like laughing even harder at that. And I remember asking my mom, like, why does cursing make things funnier? Because it does. Like it just literally, at least to me, maybe I ain't gonna speak for everybody in the world, but to my sense of humor, and I'm not saying like you have to be like hella vulgar. I'm not saying you have to be Cat Williams or whoever. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying like, but just in certain jokes, like you saying ass as opposed to butt, you know what I'm saying, may be funnier. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or you calling, just say like if you got like a hamster or something, if you call your hamster a bitch as opposed to a hamster, you know what I'm saying? Like that's funnier as far as in a joke. Now, to somebody who feels like profanity is wrong, they're gonna be like, well, God don't like that joke. You know what I'm saying?
But again, they're projecting their own opinions onto God, and that's bad. You should not do that. So
right. I mean, I do think profanity is like a case by case appropriate thing. Like I don't think you should use profanity in every situation. You know what I'm saying? Like I think, like I said, especially a lot of times, even just in general, like respect factors, like when you're in the presence of elderly people, and you know what I'm saying, even a lot of times women, but not obviously nowadays because it's a little bit more ratchet. But when you just move a certain way, you may not curse in certain situations. But I could be very, very honest, and I've told plenty of people this. So it ain't like this is me letting the cat out the bag. Like I definitely have cursed plenty of times when I be praying.
Right.
And it's not because I'm like cursing at God, mad, ain't no frustration. I literally just be talking. You know what I'm saying? But I'm talking how I talk in my head. You know what I'm saying? So it's just my thoughts.
You're being yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first couple of times it happened, I remember like almost catching myself like, oh man, dang, my bad. But then I was thinking like, but no, you know what I'm saying? Because I like, what's the difference? Also, I can curse when I don't pray, but I can't curse when I pray. Like that would mean it's wrong at some point. And once again, if somebody correct me and show me concrete evidence that what I'm saying is incorrect, then by all means I will stand corrected. But as of right now and henceforth, there's no difference because I'm not using bad words. I'm just using adult language.
Well, that's true. Like, here's an example. I had a joke one time where I talked about my dad, talked about him being a pastor, and basically said, I always felt like he wanted me to follow in his footsteps. So I told him, I was like, I basically did. Comedy and preaching, it's very similar. You both stand on stages and talk to large groups into microphones about stuff that's made up. And, it always gets a big laugh. But see, that to me is way more across the line, way more into the pale than, just dropping F-bombs or whatnot.
That's like me saying my dad robs people for a living. He's a pastor. That was a punchline I want you.
Yeah, there you go.
When I first started doing comedy, you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
It's not. But here's the thing: people who are watching it, at least people who aren't, completely up their own assholes, people who are watching it, they know we're being irreverent, we're being silly. It's not meant to be. This isn't. I'm not making a point. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm not up here making statements. I'm making jokes that are just funny or irreverent, or you take a left turn into something. Because that's what you're doing. You're just that whole buildup of me talking about my father and the premise of him wanting me to follow in his footsteps. They're all waiting. They're like, okay, I know this is going to turn left, but when is it and what are you going to do? And it's the same thing about your dad, your joke saying your dad robs people. He's a pastor, So they're just waiting for you to say something silly, And then people just take it too seriously if it affects something they believe in or they are passionate about,
For sure. No, people are definitely way more offended than God are about comedy. And that's profanity or not. That's just subject matter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like just the subject matter alone. You could be a clean comic but talk about the wrong group, and you know what I'm saying? And
like Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey got in trouble one time because he went to a club, and I'm here. He told the story. I remember in an interview, and he said he got in trouble because he went into a club and he was doing his set, and he had this new joke that he was talking about drunk driving, and after the show, a woman came up to him crying, tears in her eyes, and she said, I didn't come here to be upset, and I just lost my son a few months ago in a drunk driving accident. And he goes, I didn't know you were going to be here. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know you were coming.
Right.
I didn't make this about you. You made this about you. And I think that's what people do a lot of the time, not just with comedy, but with like everything. We always tend to make it about ourselves. We're very self-involved people. We're all kind of narcissists in that way, where if something happens, how does it affect me? What's going on with me? This, you know what I mean? And that's just a poor way to live. Yep. Bible aside, that's just a poor way to live. It's not always about you. Sometimes it's just, you have a whole club full of people, hundreds of people there, and then one person gets upset about something you said. After, whatever time you're doing, I've done 40 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour on stage and talk about a whole lot of things, and everybody's on the program. But as soon as you say something that hits them close to home, now it's a whole thing. Now you're making statements and it's all real and believable. I told that joke about comedy and preaching. And I've had people say that might be over the line right there. And I'm like, yeah, but I specifically saw you laughing at a joke where, my dad supposedly had cancer.
Right.
You didn't have a problem with that. You didn't have a problem with my dad having cancer.
Or obviously, even if you say something about yourself. Let's say if you was talking about the time you had cancer, you were homeless, or you were anything. You were held up at gunpoint. But these are true stories that you're making a joke out of. But they, like to your point, they're not offended. They're not like, oh man, because in their mind it's self-deprecating. You're talking about yourself. But no, but what you still went through could have been traumatic, even if you're making a joke about it. But they're still not sensitive to that. So the same way they can laugh at that joke, they can laugh at the other joke that they find fault in, or just don't go to comedy shows. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they do it because, again, it's in their backyard. Now you're in their backyard.
Right.
It was fine where you were in their neighbor's backyard, but now you're in their backyard. Now it's
even your own backyard. It's fine then, right? No, for sure. And
then it's fine. And I've had people come up to me about the cancer joke too, and I remember it only happened once. And basically, it's a silly little joke. It takes 10 seconds. It's just an opener, right? Where I say, I'm happy to say that as of today, my father's officially cancer-free. And then everybody claps. And I go, now, don't get me wrong. He's never had it. I'm just still excited about that, because again,
Right.
technically he is cancer free. Officially he is, but he's
Right.
never. But I'm not playing that off of haha, cancer exists and my dad
Right.
doesn't have it. I'm playing it the way that I'm shooting that shot is that I hate cheap laughs that people get on stage, and you see it all the time in comedy shows. Just had a birthday. Oh, okay, I just got married. I just had a kid. You don't care. You don't care. I just had a kid.
Right.
It's like you're just doing what you think you're supposed to do. Now get on. What you really are thinking is like get on with the jokes. I'm here for the ha ha.
Right.
I don't want to know you personally, and I hate that. I hate those cheap laughs that people do.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at The Worst Ones PK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at The Worst Ones PK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
So I just hate those cheap laughs. So I wanted to make a joke where I turn that on the audience, and then they feel silly for having clapped. I had another joke like that where I said, "How was your year last year, everybody? Did you have a good year?" And and I say it was last year was great for me. I lost 135 pounds, and everybody's like, "Yeah, all right, clap, clap." And then I'm like, "Yeah, I got divorced." So,
Right.
yeah, and nobody complains about that,
Well, hey, man, even going back to just say the whole, how does God feel about it? Like, people love to preach, and I don't mean preachers, I mean people in general love to preach. Laughter is good for the soul. It's good for the soul.
Yeah.
But then
until you're in their backyard, and now it's not good anymore.
Right. But then, you know what I'm saying? But then when somebody make it's okay to not think every joke is funny, even if it's a not offensive joke. Like, it could be just a clean joke or with cursing in or whatever, but but you just don't find it funny because it's just not humorous. Maybe you don't get it. Maybe you don't, connect with it. Whatever. Like, all of that is okay. But to and don't get me wrong. Certain people do cross lines, like, what I'm saying, when it comes down to them trying to do like shock factor or whatever like that in their joke. Like, I get that, and even for myself, like, morally, I do have a line. Like, there's certain things like I don't go at. Like, I'm not a malicious comic, even though I roast people in the crowd. You feel what I'm saying? Right. But nobody has ever, not once, like, thought about rushing the stage, coming up with me after this, nothing. And I've done hood rooms. I'm talking about bottom of the basement, 2:00 in the morning. It's a bunch of just high hood ass people in here, and nobody ever like took anything that I said towards them as like this nigga trying me. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. It was never that. Ever.
No, nobody Will Smithed you. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, or even like after trying to follow me to my car, anything. Like, nobody ever takes offense to it, because even me making jokes with you, I'm just being silly. I'm not attacking your look. I'm not attacking, I'm saying? I'm not attacking your whatever. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a cultural thing too.
I'm not belittling you.
I have been threatened on stage twice in the 11 years I've been doing comedy, to where I was like, oh, I might actually get my ass kicked right now. And they were both white people. So,
well, I got
they were both white guys.
I got threatened on stage once, but it was by Dan Weiss. You know who that is?
Yes, I do know Dan
Weiss. he rushed me on the stage.
Did he really?
He didn't attack me, but he jumped on stage and was like, "Oh, you want to have a roast battle?" He was like snatching the mic out of my hand.
He's doing well lately.
No. Dan's my guy now. That was back in like 2018 when I first met him.
Back in before it took him a long time to get where he is.
Oh yeah,
in the beginning he was atrocious.
I've done several shows with Dan. Like I've even done one with him recently. Like I've seen him recently. Like that's my guy.
I've known. Probably 7 years or so.
I met his mom. She came to the last show and all. She be just cringing every joke come out his mouth because he definitely. Now God may be offended by his jokes.
Well, but he did kind of fall into that dark shock jock kind of like because before there was much more reverent and kind of almost like naive. It just wasn't good in the beginning. It just, few people are really good in the beginning, but it's nice to find, to see him doing well, because he stuck with it and stuck through all that. And I watched him bomb so many times in those first few years. I'm like, my dude's sticking with it, man. But I mean, like, going back to jokes and comedy, I think it has to do with, social media and the online presence all the time and constant information everybody's hearing, not to mention it's like political stuff. And, because, if a comedian goes on stage and makes a joke about, race or this or that, then you immediately have people like, well, why are you allowed to do that? Like anybody else would get canceled for that. Blah, blah, blah. And that's just them saying, I wish I could talk like that in daily life. You know what I mean? That's just jealousy. That's just jealousy born out of insecurity. And it's like, you could talk, you could get on stage anytime you want to, and you could say whatever you want to, but you are going to have to deal with the ramifications of that. Yeah. And the thing I've always loved about comedy is like, funny finds out. That's the thing. Funny, I can't remember who said that. Oh, Jerry Seinfeld said that on his interview show. He said that's the great thing about this art form is like funny will always find out. And I think about that when you talk about some dark stuff or when you talk about something that might be offensive to people. If it's funny, you get away with it. If it's not, you get punished. Right. And I have always pushed that line a little bit. I have gone into rooms that I know have a heavy gay population, and I have a joke with the word faggot in it, but I know that it's funny. So it definitely took a lot of courage to go up there and just do it the way that it is anyway, because it didn't work. It didn't work without it. And it's kind of like you said, I don't know why certain words are funny, but they are. And it was about me being called that as a kid. So it's like, if somebody ridicules you or somebody hurts you with a word, when you're young or when you're vulnerable or whatever, isn't that the same pain? You know what I mean? Whether you're gay or not. So that's kind of the way I at least kind of justify it. And plus it's funny. I've never caught flack from it. I've done gay, like rooms with, I know there's a heavy gay population and they laugh at it, Right. But the only time anybody ever said anything was a straight white lady came up to me after the show and she's like, I don't think that's appropriate. And I was like, I don't think it's up to you to, you know what I mean? Right. Like if it's that's the thing that really gets me is like when you see somebody defending a group that's not in that group, that became somehow fashionable. To defend. No, what you're supposed to do is support that group. Right. You know what I mean? I guess like a good example would be the Black Lives Matter thing, right? Mm-hmm. Perfect example. Here's people standing up for something, standing up for themselves, standing up from the group, and somehow got hijacked by 25-year-old white girls. And I'm like,
Right.
and I went to a couple of those marches with Gio, my other podcast partner and my good friend. We went to a couple of those, and I knew my place. My place was there as a support only. This isn't my cause, but I'm going to show up to support you in your cause because I believe in it.
Right.
But it's when people take over and make that their backyard now that I find it even more offensive. And it's like, this is not your issue. Stop trying to make yourself special by hijacking somebody else's issue.
Even just to pertain it to just say even being a PK, like, I mean, I guess theoretically, I've never technically like sat down and had a conversation with my parents, or even just say even more specific to this podcast, my dad, about like how he felt about my comedy or whatever the case may be. But he's definitely been to,
that's what I was about to ask you. Has he been to your shows?
Absolutely. He's been to anyone, like he's been to the ones that's in Tampa. Like obviously he wasn't in Miami or whatever, but or DC or any other place I was at. But like the ones that were in the city, like he was definitely always there. I mean, I had one in maybe it was probably 2-3 months ago. That was in St. Pete, which is right outside of Tampa, and he went to that one. It was with Kyle Grooms. He had like a monthly show down there. So, but yeah, it's a like I said, and I don't. He's never came to me like never said anything outside of like good job, that was funny, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't never been no whatever. You know what I'm saying? It ain't.
My dad used to come to my shows. And I think he still, he still would if I asked him to. But I think it was more, I don't think he was offended. He did say to me one time, he's like, you don't talk that way around me. You never have. And I said, yeah, because I know you don't like it. And he's like, yeah, I just don't like hearing you talk like that,
Right.
And he's like, you're funny. I get it. I get why people are laughing. He's like, but you got to remember, you're a comedian to them. You're Terry Wayne up there. I said, when I look up there, I just see my son.
Yeah.
So
I think that's how my mom feels for sure. My dad, I'm not so sure, but
Well, I was when I did that show in Atlanta with you. I enjoyed meeting your mother. She's a very nice woman, but I definitely had eyes looking over at her sometimes during that set going, what you gonna think about this one? Just some of those punchlines, I was like, you ready? All right, don't worry, mama, come on.
That's so funny.
Because she did seem very sweet, and I was just like, are you gonna be all right? I did go a little lighter on that one, but it is what it is. You try to tailor, your jokes to the room. Some people say that clean comedy is a higher form. Like if you can work clean, it's a higher form of comedy. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because if somebody says, well, you're just being vulgar up there, and I was like, yeah, what? Because I said fuck. All right, you go up. You go up there with fuck in your hand and make them laugh. Well, and we'll see how easy it is. Okay, you go up there. So it is a little insulting when they say that it's a higher form. I don't think so. I think getting a laugh is getting a laugh. I think making somebody laugh is difficult, and I think you should use whatever tools you have in your arsenal to get that, because that's how difficult it is to make a room full of strangers all laugh together.
Especially when they don't know you because you're a celebrity where they don't give a fuck about you. You're just another motherfucker on stage, and you better do what you got to do to win them over. You know what I'm saying?
Like I was working with a guy named Bobby Slayton. He's a famous comic. He's been working for decades. And he kind of clued me into it. We were driving from like a radio thing, and he said, he said, you know how comedy, do you know how to prove that comedy is the hardest art form out there, other than maybe poetry, to be successful at? It's because you look at musicians. There's tens of thousands of bands and musicians that all make their living, because you can write jingles for advertisements, you can do studio work, you can teach, you can do this, you can do that. He's like, there's like 100 touring comics making their living, making a decent wage. There's like 100 in the whole country, that are actually tour. I mean, there's thousands, tens of thousands of comedians, but they're not making a living. They're not, they're just out there struggling, trying to make it. But, and when he told me that, I was like, oh, I didn't think about it like that, but it rang so true to me, because I'm like, yeah.
And it may be 200 now because of social media. Comics are now on the road.
Yeah,
but still, nonetheless, the ratio compared to how many comedians it is, it's not.
Well, being like a YouTuber or a TikTok comedian, I don't see that as the same thing.
No, but I'm saying I know at least 12 comedians who were initially found out about, just say on social media, however, but started doing comedy, and then did open mics, all that, and have been doing it maybe like 5, 6, 7 years at this point.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying, and have built their whatever, and they tour. So that's why I was saying it may be a little bit more than that 100, because there are, and not so much the TikTokers. The TikTokers are new, but I'm saying like the Vine, Instagram comics that that kind of grew up in that age. It's a good handful of them who have taken stand-up comedy seriously. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, look, if you can transition that. But I worked for the Improv for a number of years, and I saw a number of these people come through that, were YouTube celebrities or Vine stars or whatever. And they get booked on those weekends for a reason. It's because they have a following and they know they're going to sell tickets. But when you actually go and watch their show, it's terrible. It's terrible.
You probably telling you called them back when they first were starting, because see they also have the disadvantage of having to start comedy while already being famous. You feel what I'm saying? So they don't even get to learn the craft. They got to learn in front of everybody. But I'm saying there's some people, that handful, who stuck it through that, who can, and they'll tell you their bomb stories and stuff. Like they'll share those, but they stuck it through that, and now, you know what I'm saying? Like
but they stuck it through that while they were making a living. So it is a little.
But some people don't, because of the embarrassment. They feel like it's gonna kill their credibility. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Like everybody, everybody don't make it through, but nonetheless. But the point of this is about how God feels about comedy,
right?
I sincerely feel like, whether it's comedic or not, I think there are word usage, or even just whatever you're saying out of your mouth in general, there are things that you can say that will definitely just say be offensive to God, or be ungodly, or even be sinful. But does that automatically pertain to profanity and comedy and edgy jokes and stuff like that? No, because you're, like I said, you can tell a very just hurtful joke and just being mean and have malice behind it. But you can also tell like an edgy joke that's just, it's like you said, it's funny. It's just literally a good joke. Like I don't literally mean this, you know what I'm saying? But like, if you see how I played on the words and how I was able to flip that, like that's funny. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what a joke is. Like you're able to twist and turn it, you know what I'm saying? And make it into humor, even though it technically would not be. You feel what I'm saying? That's the like I would just say this, like Corey Holcomb, you know who Corey Holcomb is?
I do.
Very, very harsh comedian. Once again, God may be offended by things that come out of his mouth. I'm joking, but
I've worked with Corey. I've worked with Corey when I was at the Improv.
Listen, when he tells a joke about about his girl or whatever having the miscarriage in the toilet, and he had to go to the toilet and act like he cared and cried or whatever, and then you see him flush the toilet and he act like he the baby spinning around like that joke to somebody I'm sure who's ever dealt with that in real life, that is probably not funny at all.
Well,
but, hold on, wait. But when I tell you I cried my eyes out when I was laughing at that joke the first time I ever heard it. And I didn't laugh because I was thinking about somebody who's dealt with that. It was really almost laughing because of how fucked up of a joke it was. Like,
yes.
Like it was almost like I can't even believe he just said this. Like, but I literally, I mean, it was probably one of the funniest moments of as far as me watching stand-up comedy and laughing. And it was at the Shaq All-Star Comedy Jam. So even like Shaq and all the people in the front row, they was falling out laughing. Like everybody was dying laughing. But there were, I'm sure, women in the crowd like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just said that.
Well, you're just striking onto a new thing, which is definitely where I thought I was going to end with, but I happen to personally believe that we have a sense of humor. We were given a sense of humor for a reason. I find it that it's hard. Life is harsh. Life can be devastatingly harsh for a lot of people, but we were given a sense of humor like a weapon that we can go after this harshness with. And that's why I believe there is nothing off limits. You want to tell a 9/11 joke? Go for it. You want to talk about abortion? Have at it. You know what I mean? Because the worse the situation, the more I think we should joke about it. Because what it does is it takes the power away from it a little bit. You know, it's not going to heal your PTSD, your trauma. It's not going to fix everything. But for a minute, if you can get over yourself and just laugh at something that's funny and go, oh, well, yeah, that is a little bit of, you know, that it kind of relieves that pressure valve, you know, and it kind of just makes you go, okay, it's not that bad. You know, I can get through it. That was funny, you know, like, let me lighten it up a bit. Because it's kind of like, what's a good example is Harry Potter, right? Then the Harry Potter series, nobody will even speak the bad guy's name. The bad guy's name is Voldemort. Nobody in the stories will even speak his name. They're like, we don't say that name. And it's like, yeah, but you're putting that up. You're putting that bad evilness up on a pedestal now by saying, oh, you won't even say his name. Oh, no, you can't tell a joke about 9/11. That's too harsh. That's too bad. Yeah, I know. We all were there. I was there. I remember, you know, like it was terrible. Right. But that I do feel like it is part of the healing process, especially with big emotional beats in your life. You know, my mom committed suicide, but I've told jokes about suicide on stage because for me, it's kind of cathartic just to, you know, and you kind of get and you process it. And just like you said, with him and his miscarriage, I mean, he probably didn't really feel that way in the time, but now he's mocking it because he's taking his own situation, his own pain, and he's being very vulnerable to get on stage in front of strangers and talk about it, which is, it's like public therapy. To me, a stand-up to a comic a little bit when you talk about things that are happening for real in your life, that's like public therapy. That's you getting it off your chest. You're making them laugh. You're starting to feel better. You know what I mean? Like it's good all the way around.
Yeah, like I'm with you. I'm with you. Like I think it's a, like I said, there. I think everything has a line, but I just don't think the line in comedy is as thin as people make it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a little thicker, especially even in God's eyes. Because he allowed it to exist, you know what I'm saying? He like I say, he gave you the sense of humor, you know what I'm saying? So,
well, it's not your job to judge anyway. I'm pretty sure this book says many times not to judge others.
For sure, and even outside of stand-up comedy, like I guarantee you, if everybody had to share, like everybody in the world had to like share like their group chats that they have with people. Group chats is where the darkest jokes happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're sharing it like this only stay between us type of thing, and we laugh at this type of thing. We would never post this. We would never let anybody know we laughed at it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
if everybody had to show that, they wouldn't have a stance to say against any comedian because we would be like, look at what you laughing at. Look at the type of stuff y'all talk about in it. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all, everybody has that little dark little group chat, and so get the fuck off.
Everybody, if something's funny, regardless of what it's about,
right?
Regardless how dark or how vulgar or how racist in some cases, and how misogynistic in other cases, everybody will laugh at that.
Right.
The only difference is, will you laugh about it in public?
For sure.
That's the difference between comedians and audience members. Is comedians have the courage to tell that joke in front of everybody right to their face. If somebody else had thought of that joke, like you said, and put it in the group chat, everybody would laugh, and nobody would care because we're all on the same page in that group chat. But it's also, like I said, it's just narcissism. People who stand up and be like, I don't think that's appropriate. No, what you're trying to do is put yourself on a pedestal above me. You're trying to say, I think I'm better than you, which is why I would never say that or laugh at that or this, that. Oh, okay. So you're pious. I get it. You're better than me because of the morality you have chosen. You got that pious nature about you.
I've had a preacher tell me how funny he thought a specific video I made was, but why he couldn't like or comment under it because he didn't want nobody to know he was watching it.
And see, that's another insecurity. That's how those people make everybody else feel, is like, oh, I don't want to get yelled at by sister such and such.
Right.
No,
and that's my question. So where is the sin? Is it me cussing or whatever I was doing? Mm-hmm. Or is it them lying about what it is that they actually enjoy?
Well, no, actually, I think it's sister such and such who's in the wrong, because now she is like a tyrant, right, and she's affecting the way that other people are living their lives because she's got that pious nature of, oh, I would never. Yeah. And with that attitude, you never will. That's the way I look at it. I bet you would never. I bet you would never live a real life because you're too busy worried about what everybody else is thinking of you. Instead of just being yourself and saying the things you believe. That's the way to live free. That's the way to live honest. And I would hate to be sister such and such. My father was the first person I told that joke about. We both talk about things that are made up because I want to see what he thought of it. You know what he did? He laughed. Now this is a man who spent almost 50 years in the service of God.
Right.
My whole life, for sure.
Right.
And you're going to sit there and you're going to, sister such and such, going to cut him down for laughing at a joke his son told? No, because he knows this isn't what he really believes. This isn't for real, you know? I mean, it's just for silliness. And if you can't take it that way, then don't follow me. Don't come to my shows. There's other people who will, that do understand it.
Well, let them know how they can follow you to your shows, Terry Wayne.
At Terry Wayne Comedy, all over the socials. I'm even on TikTok now. So
you're even on Amazon.
Yep. Oh, and Unclaimed Ashes is where the book is. Y'all need to start buying this, man. These numbers are starting to drop.
Are they dropping or just not moving? Because dropping would mean that people are returning the books, ain't it?
Oh, no. I mean, the sales are starting to drop. So let's get on it. Gotcha. Order your copy today.
All right. Shout out these two. Princess Kels 51, still private, at JRihanna _. Follow us on Instagram with at the Worst Ones Podcast. At the Worst Ones PK. We'll see if it gets updated soon. YouTube and Apple Podcasts and all the places that you find podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever. The Worst Ones Podcast. That's a apostrophe S on ones. There's no apostrophe on the Instagram. And then make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And that's about all, folks. Well, this has been the at least the final version for now of the worst of the worst ones podcast.
Ladies will be here next week.
The ladies will be here next week, either to continue or to wrap this shit up.
Tune in next week to find out.
So we shall see. We'll see if this break was a good break and rejuvenated them, or if they was like, you know what, I like not doing this shit.
and we don't know, by the way. We're gonna find out when you guys find out.
Yeah, we sincerely don't know at all. Yeah. So
nope.
Well, actually, we're gonna technically find out before y'all because we do record before you technically will see the episode.
Oh, okay,
but it won't be that far ahead. Like
no, when we record this is
right.
when we're gonna find out. So.
Right. We technically don't know right now when you're watching this, but anyways, yeah, man. Shout out to y'all. We appreciate y'all. We are the worst of the worst. I feel like we should hold up like both deuces because we're the worst.
All right, both deuces because we're the worst of the worst.
I gotta figure out how I'm gonna click the button. All right, I'm gonna just do this. We the worst of the worst one. We out.